and thou shalt love thy neighbour as thyself. And the young man saith unto him, All these things have I kept from my youth up. What lack I yet? The guy thought he was slick, He thought, yeah, I've been doing this, I've been doing that. Yeah, what haven't I been done? What haven't I been doing? Yeah. So he's kind of like, I'm kind of exaggerating, but I get the feeling this guy is kind of full of himself. Like he was feeling himself like, yeah, man, I've done all that. What next, And Yahushua saith unto him, If thou wilt be perfect, go and sell that thou hast, and give to the poor, and thou shalt have treasure in heaven, and come and follow me. Now here's the point. Matthew 19:22, and it says, But when the young man heard that saying, he went away sorrowful, for he had great possessions. Then Yahushua saith unto his disciples, Verily I say unto you, that a rich man shall hardly enter into the kingdom of heaven. And again I say unto you, it is easier for a camel to go through the eye of a needle than for a rich man to enter into the kingdom of the Most High. Now, I'm not a rich man by any means. I'm barely getting by. But the point is that... Oh, slack it. Didn't mean to do that. But the point is that, I read these precepts and I thought about the stuff that I've got, stored away in the attic, which could be considered of having some quite high collectible valuability, valuable collectibles. So, it got to a point where I was saying to myself, you know what, man, all these things are going to be burnt up anyway. It says the elements are going to burn with fervent heat. So why don't I just sell my stuff? Well, not everything, but the things that I'm not really using that much, that are just gathering dust. Why don't I sell all those things and use that money to try and finance other areas of my life, maybe? Because there's other things that I was doing. So I thought, you know what, man? Okay, let's do this. So I set up an eBay store for myself, and I started selling these things on eBay. And I had a lot of Marvel, a lot of DC, some Street Fighter characters because I like video games as well, some Mortal Kombat characters, other cool characters, Ghostbusters, some Transformers, different things. Now I had a lot of stuff, and I was like, you know what, man, like the song by the Manic Street Preachers, Everything Must Go, if you know that song. For those of you who played Gran Turismo 1, it was in the intro. Anyway, so I set up this eBay shop and started selling stuff. And at the time I thought, well, I was trying to finance some equipment that I needed for other work I do, not to put my business out there, but I started selling a few things. And the response to it was very, very good. People were like bidding on these things, and I was starting to make good markups on the things that I'd invested in. As I said, for example, giving a prime example, a certain Spider-Man toy that I might have bought for $3.99, no, let's say $10.99 in Woolworths back in 2006, 2007, would now be going on eBay for something like £50. Markups, That's what's called, what do you call it? Return on investment, So a lot of these figures I'd invested in, I'd be able to make a very good return on the initial investment I'd paid. So let's say I spent £10 on a figure, I might sell it for 30, So I was able to make it sustainable, because what I did was, I thought, okay, when I sell the toy, I can either invest in equipment for other things I do, or I can invest in other toys to sell later on. So to try and make it a sustainable thing, so like sell some stock to buy some stock to sell later on. So I started doing that. So basically it became, at first I was doing little bit, and I didn't really think it would be something that I'd be able to make a decent side income from. But it turns out that I was able to. So I started to get into the hang of it, and more people started buying. I got a good reputation on eBay, so people liked my store. So therefore I started to think, okay, some of the money you make from these sales, use it to invest in other stock to sell later on. So I started doing that and made it a successful, I say successful, but it's not like I'm making thousands of pounds It's like, yeah, maybe I'm making £1,000. Not to put my business out there, but it's not like I'm making big money, Esau money. You know, I'm basically just getting by, and it's cool because I've been able to turn my hobby into something profitable. So I kind of run my own little eBay shop, you know. Now here's where the testimony really gets in, because what basically happened is, since the coronavirus lockdown, most businesses have been struggling and going under. Well, the ironic thing is that people are still buying toys, because people sitting at home in lockdown, in quarantine, what are they going to do? Stare at the four walls? People who are into this stuff, they think, you know what, man, I'm going to treat myself to a toy. So my eBay shop has been doing good, even throughout this pandemic stuff, but this is all through the will of the Most High. Now, what happened is, I got into a situation because, as I said, some of the money I make from sales, I use it to invest in new stock. So, and the funny thing is that I've never got burnt on stock ever, because there's a lot of toy collectors who think, hey, you know what, that's going to be valuable, I'm going to buy 10 of those. And then it turns out that that thing that they thought, for example, a lot of these Star Wars toys, a lot of the Star Wars toys that people thought would be valuable, because they're so mass produced, they ain't worth shit. So therefore, that's why, like in the 1990s, for those of you who know, there was a Star Wars toy line called the Power of the Force. A lot of people thought those toys would be valuable as the vintage Kenner ones were. So like, I'm getting a bit deep here, but on the toy stuff, but those weren't valuable at all. And now people are stuck with that stock and still can't sell it to this day. Where, well, the Most High has blessed me, where I've never been in a situation where I've been burnt, where I've bought an item and been stuck with it and have to sell it for half of what I paid for it. So the Most High has blessed me with the spirit to be able to do this. So I'm very grateful for that. It's all through the will of the Most High. Now the point is that, as I say, I take some of the income I get to buy new stock. So some of the stock I get is on pre-orders. Now I pre-ordered some Ninja Turtles and some Thundercats stuff, because I know that those are good sellers. And I ordered some decent quantities, like, you know, some of the characters I want, okay, I'll get one for myself, but I might buy 2 more to sell on, you know what I'm saying? So therefore I might buy 3 of a character, 1 for me, 2 to sell, you know, makes sense. So I pre-ordered these, and they were supposed to have come out in early 2020, and it was supposed to have been staggered, but because of the COVID-19 thing, the productions got delayed. So why I had this bulk order of Thundercat stuff and a bulk order of Ninja Turtle stuff, and rather than them coming at different times, what happened is, because of the coronavirus and everything got delayed, and then when they restarted the production, everything came out at the same time. Now, because it all came out at the same time, it was a lot of money for me to pay for this investment. Now, another thing happened, where I also had another statue on pre-order that I wanted for myself, and that came in at the same time. So I had this statue plus these pre-orders of these 2 stocks of Thundercat stuff and Ninja Turtle stuff, and it was a lot of money for me to pay out at once. And I thought, shit, how am I going to do this? Because I didn't have enough money to pay for everything. Now, I finished paying for the statue, because I was paying that in installments. I thought I finished paying for this statue. Then I got a bill from DHL saying to me, you owe us £260 for the shipping of this statue. I had no idea that this thing was going to be so expensive. But I got hit with this bill, £260, on top of the money that I was owing for these pre-orders of this other stock. Now the weird thing about Esau is that it's funny how they just take money out your account, you know. It's like, you don't get paid, you get paid once a month, right? Usually most people who are employed get paid once a month, but yet Esau can just take the money whenever he wants. It's like, they never sent me emails to say, hey, the stock's coming in, be ready for, like, you know, the stock's got to be in on the 20th of August or something. It was just like, bang, the pre-orders have arrived, we are taking the money out, we are taking the direct debit out of your account. Now, because my account was maxed out, there was no money in my account to pay for all these things. And on top of that, I had another standing order of a gift that I bought for my mum. So they wanted money for that. And on top of this, a customer who had bought a Marvel toy from me emailed me saying that it had been a while and he hadn't received his item yet. Now the thing is, he wasn't sure if the item had been lost in the post or if it was delayed due to COVID-19. Now this item, I sold it for about £50. Again, a toy I paid, it was a box set around £30 at the time, but I sold one figure. I paid £30 for a box set of 6 figures in 2007. Now I'm able to sell one of those figures from that box set for £50. That's markup and return on investment. You know, see what I'm saying now? So he bought this toy for about £50, and he emails me saying, I'm really sorry, but could you check with the post service to see if the item has been delayed or whatnot. Now his country, he wasn't sure if the post, because they were not delivering post much there, he wasn't sure if it's been delayed or if it's been lost. So I was like, you know, the guy's sincere. So I thought, yeah, I'll look into it. So contacted Royal Mail, told them the tracking details of this item, told them the item has been lost in the post, but it takes a while for them to process your request for a return. Now I will get that money back eventually, but it's going to take about maybe 2 or 3 months for them to email me back and say, okay, the item wasn't delivered, here's your refund for that item. But this guy, it's not fair for him to wait 3 months for me to get my refund from Royal Mail to then reimburse him for his investment. And because customer service is important to me, I really like for people to be happy with what they get, because at the end of the day, toys are meant to make people happy, right? You know? So I was like, you know, I'm going to have to refund this guy. So that's going to be another £50 on top of the £250 from DHL, plus the close to £400 for the stock of these figures that I'm supposed to sell, but they all come in at once. So it's like all this money, everybody's like asking money from me, and I haven't got enough money in my account to cover all of these debts. So this is where most Edomites would probably throw themselves out of a 10-story floor window, but not me. You know, being Jake, growing up hardcore, we learn to roll with the punches and we learn to deal with adversity, but more importantly, we learn to put our faith in the Most High. And that's the whole point of this testimony about having faith, because I was in a situation, and basically I don't really have friends in the world. I only have friends in this truth, pretty much. And so it's not like I'm not going to go to someone and say, hey Bob, can you lend me some money? Or Jim, can you lend me some money to cover this? I've never really been that kind of guy. Not because of pride, but because I've learned to be self-sufficient all my life. Even with my parents, I don't usually like to go to them and say, hey, mum or dad, could you help me here or that? Because I always thought to myself, if they haven't got much, why should I go and ask them for the little they have? So I usually learn to deal with things myself and trust in the Most High. So what basically happened is, I sent this guy his refund with the little money that I did have, because I knew that, look man, this guy's legit, man. He's paid his money, he hasn't got his item, give him his refund. So I sent him that money, the £50, but I didn't have enough money in my account to cover all the other things. So and also sales had kind of dried up a bit, because usually like I was selling like maybe 1 or 2 things a week, but I kind of went for a bit of a dry stint where nothing was really selling. And maybe I went for 2 or 3 weeks when nothing was selling. I was thinking, oh, this is interesting. Usually, at least like, even if it's a £5 item, it would sell. Nothing was really selling. So I was like, shit, how am I going to get the money to cover these debts? How am I going to get the money? And I was thinking to myself, you know what, man? Don't even stress about it. The Most High knows exactly what you're going through. And He's put you in a situation and He's going to deliver you. So I was praying. And I was, you know, having these conversations in my mind, like, you know, Lord, hopefully you'll deliver me from this situation before the bailiffs come knocking at the door. That I'd get that far. But you know what I mean? Well, never know with Esau, man. So what basically happened is, I was praying a lot about this, and I made a few sales. But it was just for small items, like maybe a couple of £5 items here and there. But still, it was just enough for me to keep the money in my account, because I maxed out my overdraft limit. But it's just enough to just keep it on that borderline, yeah? And this went on for a few days. And then one guy emailed me about an item, asking me if I could do him a good price on it. And I thought to myself, now this is the funny thing. With Esau, he's always about making max profit. That's Esau for you. He's always about, you've got to make the most profit, you know. But me, it's not all about profit. It's about customer satisfaction with me. And sometimes I will sell an item for less than it's worth, because I feel like the person is sincere and they really, really desire this item. And I think, you know what, man, if it's going to make the person happy, I'm happy to sell it. Because it's, my feeling is that, like, obviously, as I said about my testimony, toys are meant to make people happy, man. They're not meant to sit there gathering dust in someone's attic just because they want to sell it for £100 and nobody's willing to pay £100 at that time for it. Then it sits there for 20 years. Nah, man. Especially with the precept I read just a minute ago. Let me read it again. About the young man who had great riches. You know, let me read it again. And he said unto him, this is Yahushua, yeah? Why callest thou me good? There is none good but one, that is the Most High. But if thou wilt enter into life, keep the commandments. And he saith unto him, which? And Yahushua said, thou shalt do no murder, thou shalt not commit adultery, thou shalt not steal, thou shalt not bear false witness. Honour thy father and thy mother, and thou shalt love thy neighbour as thyself. And the young man saith unto him, all these things I have kept from my youth up, what lack I yet? And Yahushua said unto him, if thou wilt be perfect, go and sell that thou hast and give to the poor. There's my point, you see what I'm saying? Rather than me trying to sell for max markup, you know, there's people who haven't got that much money and they really desire this figure. You know what, man? If the person's sincere, sell it and let them enjoy it. Because at the end of the day, all these things are going to be burnt up anyway. What profit is it going to do to me, you know, when the nukes come? These things aren't going to deliver me. And it's funny that I'm saying this because, you know, there was a time when my father came to visit me. And I have a lot of respect for my father because he's my father. And he doesn't visit me often because he doesn't live in his country. But he came to visit me one time where I live, in my humble abode. And he was here. And he came in and he sat down and he was looking around my room at all the stuff I've got. And he's like, wow, you've got a lot of stuff, man. It's really interesting. You've got a lot of stuff. And he was quite impressed by, obviously, the collection of things I've amassed over the years. And I said to him, yeah, as nice as this stuff is, Dad, one day there's going to come a point where Esau's going to come down on everybody and try and force everybody into his, you know, mark of the beast system. And I'm going to have to dip and forsake all this stuff. And he's like, what? What are you going to do? How are you going to survive? And I was like, you know what? The Most High will provide for me. The Most High will deliver me in that day. You know, so everything that I've got, as beautiful as it is now, I mean, this is a far cry to how I grew up. When I grew up, I had almost nothing. Now I've got, you know, some nice possessions, thankfully. But still, to me, there's a line. You know, there's a line where as much as it might be nice to have this cool toy or that nice statue or whatever, there's a line. I know I can't get too attached to this stuff, because if you put your heart in the things of this world, your heart will be in this world. So therefore, when the tribulation comes, you're going to have a very hard time separating yourself from the things of this world. So in my mind, there's always been this divide, this separation between, yeah, this is cool. Okay, I've got a bed now. But hey, you know what? When Esau comes down, I might not have a bed. I might be sleeping in the street. I might be living in the forest. I don't know. But I have faith that the Most High will deliver me if I keep walking this path. So it's not really a choice, man. Man's goings are of the Lord. So as far as I'm concerned, wherever the Lord takes me is where I'm going to go. Anyway, so the point in the matter is that yeah, I was in this situation where a lot of people were demanding money from me, and I was praying to the Lord about it. And so this one guy contacts me, asks me about some Resident Evil toys, and he asked me if I'd be able to give him a good price on it. So for example, rather than charging him 40, because I was in dire straits, I thought, you know what, man, sell it for half price. So I sold it to him for 20, and he bought it, and I thought that would be it. Then the next day I got notification that I'd sold 2 more items, both for £20, both from Resident Evil line of toys, and it was the same guy. So instead of him buying just 1, he bought 3, which meant £60, which was, whew, I can kind of pay this into my account and stop me from being at overdraft limit. And it was the same guy who bought. So I thought, this is interesting. And again, this goes back to what I was saying, where Esau, he would try and charge max profit for 1 item. Esau might have put this guy over a barrel and said, I want full price for this 1 toy. Yeah, he might make £40 in that minute, but he would have lost the long-term sale that would come from the same customer. So while he might make a £40 profit on that 1 sale, he didn't make the £60 that he would have made if he'd have sold it for a more reasonable price so the guy could buy more items. See? Smart business. Which they don't teach you in school. In school they teach you, be like Esau, you know, crush, 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 stomp, 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 kill, 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 make as much as you possibly can, and, you know, kick everyone else off the corporate ladder, all that bullshit, man. So, and it's funny because I spent a lot of years working in retail, and I saw a lot of this shit. And it's nice now to be able to have my own little eBay shop where I get to control the terms, because now it's working. It's a much more pleasant business and people like shopping with me, which makes me make more money in the long run. So that happened. I made a little bit on that. Okay, cool. But I still owed money for the DHL, £260, and the pre-orders, which was close to like £400, I think. So 400 plus blah, blah, blah. I had a little bit of money come in, and it's funny, as soon as the money came in, the money that I earned came in, other than what I was just talking about, it got sucked up in these debts. So it's like almost like I didn't have anything. Like I'd never got any money in the first place. Haggai 1 and 6, let me get that precept. It's like, yeah, this is a long testimony, but it's how the Spirit wills it. Haggai 1 and 6. It says, ye have sown much and bring in little. Ye eat, but ye have not enough. Ye drink, but ye are not filled with drink. Ye clothe you, but there is none warm. And he that earneth wages to put into a bag with holes. And that's Esau's trick system. You know, I understand this all too well, man. I've worked enough jobs to know that as a Jake, you're never going to get your fair shake in this society. That's kind of why I'm a bit like, no, I don't really give a fuck. Because, you know, no matter how talented you are, even if you're talented, you got to do a hell of a lot of selling out just to get a foot on Esau's stage. And it ain't worth it, man. It ain't worth it, especially in light of this truth. Once you realise this truth, you know, these things on the world, they just fade away, man. So anyway, I still owed a lot of money. And I was thinking to myself, Lord, how am I going to get out of this situation? I wasn't really stressing too much because I've been broke before many times and I've learned to deal with this adversity. But it's just, I was thinking, okay, Lord, I trust in your will and your way, and I know that you're directing my steps. How are you going to deliver me from this situation? Well, what happened is a few days later, I got an email from someone asking me about some Street Fighter toys I collected back in the day. And they're quite collectible, so they're good prices on these things. And since this person contacted me saying, hi, I'm interested in a couple of your figures from the Street Fighter. What's the best price you could offer me on them? Now, some of these characters are really valuable, so let me give you an example. I had Ken and Ryu listed for something like £70, because obviously, you know, Ken and Ryu, the the main characters of Street Fighter. Everybody wants them, and they're kind of hard to get now from that particular line. So the guy was asking me, actually I think it was a girl, might have been a mother, I don't know. She was asking me, how much could you do me for these figures? So I thought, you know what, man, I'm gonna, because she was asking for a few of them. I think she was asking about for 5. I thought to myself, you know what, man, sell them to her for just above what you paid, like a decent markup, not an extortionate markup. So I was like, okay, since you're asking for 5 characters, I think it's 5 characters she wanted, I said I'll do you for £25 each, which is still a good markup, because I think I paid like maybe £12 back in the day for them. So still, you know, double what I paid. So I'm making 50% profit. But because she was asking for 5, that was quite a big sale. So I was like, okay, cool. And then she said, okay, I'll buy all 5 of them. So she bought it and she paid for it straight away. So I was like, whoa, I've got a little bit of money. I can pay off some of these debts. But it still wasn't enough to cover everything that I owed. But it was a nice little boost. And I was like, you know what? Kauhala Yahweh Bashem Yahweh Shai for Wadi Yahweh Bashem Yahweh Shai for allowing that sale to take place. So I didn't think any more about it. I thought, okay, cool, that's nice. I thought, you know what? All I've got to do is wait a few more weeks until my next payday, and maybe I'll be able to pay off everything then. But I just have to be a little bit poor for the time being, in the sense that, you know, I have to do a little bit more fasting, you know, because I haven't really got that much to eat in the fridge. So, you know, great opportunity to fast more. I went to sleep that night, said my prayers, didn't think too much about it, and I was woken up early the next morning, very, very early the next morning, by the sound of that eBay cha-ching sound. I love that sound, you know, whenever you make a set, it goes cha-ching, you know, it's a nice little notification. But I woke up at like 7 in the morning to that cha-ching sound, and it kept going cha-ching, cha-ching, cha-ching. I was like, what? I bet it's someone buying loads of small little items for like £5 or something. But it kept ringing, 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 cha-ching, cha-ching. And then I thought, I was half asleep because I don't usually wake up at 7 in the morning, but well, let me check who's buying this stuff. So I looked on my phone. The same person who had bought the 5 Street Fighter figures from the previous day decided to buy another 6 for £25 each. So again, let's say I'd have charged a max markup on, say, the Ryu figure. Let's say I charged her £80 for one Ryu figure. She'd have bought that one and she wouldn't have bought nothing more, and that would be, I'd make £80, great. But by me being sensible and also compassionate towards the person who's asking, by selling them for a more reasonable price, I ended up selling 11 figures rather than 1. So therefore that was a big sale, and that gave me just enough money to help pay off the pre-orders for the other figures which are going to be coming that I'm supposed to sell later on. These are it's interesting because this is like running your own business, and I kind of don't feel like I'm running my own business, but I kind of am, in the sense that this is what people do when they run a business. But it's kind of weird because I never really saw myself as being someone who would be in that position, and I'm not saying that to be boastful or anything like that, because it really is a very humble operation. But by the grace of Yahweh Hashem Yahweh Shai, He's made this be profitable for me, so I'm able to do it. Now, the whole point of that testimony is about having faith, because as soon as I got those sales, I was like, once again, you know, Thawadi Yahweh Hashem Yahweh Shai, Kahala Yahweh Hashem Yahweh Shai, for answering my prayers and delivering me from this situation where I didn't have the money to cover these things, because it all came at once, unexpectedly. But Yahweh delivered me out of this situation. So that's the testimony that I'm sharing, because as I said, Revelation 12 and 11, let me read it again. Lord willing, this is edifying for brothers out there who may be in this faith, and you might be going through something yourself, and you know, you might be in a situation where you're wondering, how am I going to get out of this, man? The Most High knows what you're going through, and this is a light thing to me, man. I've been through much worse situations, not just in terms of money, but I mean crazy situations I've been through, and the Lord's delivered me, and it's always boosted my faith every time it happens. But the thing about this one is that when this situation happened and I got these sales and I was able to balance my account a bit, the first thing that entered my mind through the Spirit was, okay, the Lord delivered you from the situation, but what are you going to do with it? Are you going to speak about it? Or are you just going to say, oh yeah, and go about your life as if nothing ever happened and never speak about it? Because if I never speak about it, how's anybody going to get edified through this situation that the Lord put me through for a reason? Part of the reason why the Lord did this to me might have been just so that you can say, hey, you know what, man? Make a testimony video about what I've just done for you to deliver you in this situation so that other brothers can be edified and other sisters can be edified through the Spirit. So once the Spirit said that to me in the head, I was like, you know what, man? I'm going to have to start doing a testimony video on some of the stuff I've been through, because otherwise it's like me laying my treasure in a napkin. You know, there's the parable of the talents where the one guy, the Lord gave one guy 10, one guy 5 and one guy 1. The guy who had the 10 flipped his talent and made more, and the Lord was pleased with him. The guy who got the 5 flipped his talent and made more, and the Lord was pleased with him. But the guy who had the 1 talent was scared, and he hid the talent in the ground, and Yahushua is wroth with him, and he was like, you know what, man, you should have at least put it in the bank, then I could have collected what was mine through usury. But because thou slothful servant, that 1 talent that you have, I'm going to take that and give it to the one who had 10. So the man who had the 1 talent lost everything, and the one who actually used his talents gained more. So these testimonies are kind of like talents in a sense, because the Lord puts you through situations in your life to test you and to refine you through the Spirit, but also so that you can turn around and say, you know what, man, Yahweh shall deliver me in this circumstance. And I'm going to read this one more time. Book of Revelation, chapter 12, verse 11. And they overcame him by the blood of the Lamb and by the word of their testimony, and they loved not their lives unto the death. Now, so that's the testimony, and I want to bring out some precepts on faith. If I can find my... Yeah. There's a couple of precepts on faith I want to bring out, because it was the faith that kept me going in this situation, because I knew the Lord would deliver me. One way or another, he would deliver me. I always had that faith. I never doubted for a second. So, but obviously you can't go to Esau and say, I've got faith that I'll get the money. Esau wants his money, you know. Esau's carnal like that.